J.D. Vance will be on his way to Pakistan soon, but it's unclear whether the Iranians will even agree to meet with him, let alone agree to open up the Strait.
I think things are actually going quite well for the United States. I think we are not too far away from a deal.
We have a more hardline regime there. Khamenei Jr. actually wants to develop nuclear weapons. Does anyone believe that we actually have more leverage?
We got this incredible economic leverage on them, which is simply shut down all of their revenue sources.
Well, there is a lot of confusion about what comes next as they get ready for more talks, potentially in Islamabad. This weekend, U.S. Central Command put out a statement. The Marines repelled onto an Iranian-flagged vessel April 19th after guided missile destroyer USS Spruance disabled Tuska, that ship's propulsion, when the commercial ship failed to comply with repeated warnings from U.S. forces over a 6-hour period. And I mentioned that earlier. If you look at the Strait, you can see there are ships moving, not as many, obviously, as always. It's not completely closed, but the Iranians have fired on vessels, including on an Iranian vessel that came under distress, trying to get through. Take a listen.
Navy, you give me clearance. You give me clearance to go. Sepa Navy. This is Motoranga Sanmar Herald. You gave me clearance to go. My name second on your list. You gave me clearance to go. You are fighting now. Let me turn back.
That was actually an Indian vessel, but you can see the confusion and chaos going through the Strait of Hormuz. Let's bring in our panel. Annie Linsky is White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Susan Page, Washington bureau chief at USA Today, and Fox News political analyst Guy Benson. There's just this confusion around the whole thing, Guy, and we don't know at this hour whether these talks are going to happen in Islamabad.
That's one of the biggest sources of confusion. We were talking about this on the radio earlier. There are reports out there that the Pakistani mediators have been trying to diffuse these volcanic eruptions among the Iranian delegation because they're so angry at each other. At
exactly.
Each other's
the negotiations are not fighting between the two sides, but
right.
in one side.
Right. It's infighting on the Iranian side. Unclear what we're doing and who we're sending. And let's say, God willing, a deal could be struck. With whom are we striking the deal? And do they have the authority to actually agree to it or implement it? That's also an X factor. So they're clearly in a very bad place, the regime, total chaos, which is bad news for them and therefore good news to us, but not necessarily great news about an imminent deal being realistic, perhaps.
Yeah, Susan, The Economist writes it this way. Which Iran is America dealing with? The conflicting messages coming out of Iran are a sign of something significant. A power struggle is underway in the Islamic Republic. Iranian delegations dispatched for talks with America are usually lean, disciplined, and tightly briefed. The Islamabad one was anything but. Their arguments were so ferocious that Pakistani mediators are reported to have spent as much time refereeing among the Iranians as engaging the Americans. One side is political with words. The other side has guns, the IRGC, and they are using them.
That's right. And, it's clear that President Trump wants to make a deal, is ready to make a deal. Some of the Iranians are ready to make a deal, but not others. The problem I think that President Trump has is while we have this incredible military superiority, they have the leverage of time because Iran does not need to pay very much attention to the concerns of the Iranian public about this war. But President Trump needs to pay some concern to the views of Americans, and 2/3 of Americans want this war over, don't think it was a good idea from the start.
All right, here's the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
Anybody who has dealt with the Iranians will tell you it is often 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. They've cheated over the years, which is one of the reasons that President Trump withdrew us from the JCPOA. They were hiding sites. They were hiding capabilities. We have to take the perspective that we're not waiting, we're not trusting. We are reducing their capabilities.
But the ceasefire is coming to an end, Annie, and the question is, do we go full blast back into blasting Iran?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine, and certainly Trump's rhetoric does not suggest that he has the kind of patience for the Iranians stringing the United States along. And to your point, that ceasefire does come to an end. There are a lot of people in Trump's ear pushing him to, as they say, finish the job. And that could involve additional bombing, certainly. And, and it is possible that that could also involve some amount of boots on the ground if they're really going to push the Iranians for, as Trump calls it, the nuclear dust, and to reopen the Strait.
The Chinese president called the Saudi crown prince, saying you need to open the Strait. The Saudi crown prince doesn't have control over the Strait of Hormuz, but China's obviously concerned about it. At the same time, this Iranian vessel is boarded. It contains Chinese delivered port things, including chemicals for missiles in Iran, it looks like.
Which is not necessarily surprising, but provocative. The Chinese are getting squeezed here, as is the Iranian economy. So the Chinese clearly have a real interest in getting some of this cleared up, which might be outside pressure that might help bring this to some sort of conclusion. But again, it's a guessing game right now.
A guessing game also in the Commonwealth of Virginia as we get ready for this. How about that transition from Iran to Virginia? As we get ready for this redistricting back and forth, this referendum, here is sound on that.
We want fair maps. We want to make sure that our voice is heard. This is our chance to push back and say no to them by saying yes on Tuesday.
Going from a 6-5 map in a purple state to a 10-1 Democrat map is just a political partisanship to an extreme.
Now, Susan, it's important to point out that Republicans started this thing in Texas. Democrats have done it other places. Republicans have picked up the ball in Ohio and other places. This one seems like they're pushing the envelope too.
Oh yeah, hypocrisy alert on all sides about this. But you'd think that this would pass easily because Democrats won everything in November, every statewide office just last November in Virginia. But the latest polls are closer, 4 or 5 points. Still would expect it to pass, but they're finding that while Democratic voters say yes, let's fight fire with fire, independent voters don't like this. And you look at that map, it looks like kind of a sunflower.
Yeah.
It does not look like a sensible, common sense, nonpartisan sort of map. So we'll see.
Virginia is kind of a purplish place. It's more purplish blue around Washington, D.C. But when Kamala Harris wins 46%, it's tough to back up the thing that 10 Democrats are going to take over the Commonwealth.
That is a head scratcher for sure. On Tuesday, I'm really going to be looking for the rural vote here, and I think that can tell you a lot about Trump's standing. I mean, this is really being set up as a test on Trump and a vote. Referendum on his leadership. And so the rural areas of the state, which really will be impacted the most because they are the ones that are suddenly going to have representation in Washington that comes from the core liberal parts of the state.
And it's a nationwide thing, as I talked with Britt Guy, and it could impact how the midterms look. Democrats look well positioned now, but who knows?
Sure.
Well, that's what this is about. It's about the Democrats trying to gain 4 seats, but they're marketing it as an exercise in fairness, which is just so insulting given what the map looks like. And the fact that a 6-5 map currently, that's what we now have in Virginia, one of the fairest maps in the country, would go 10-1, arguably the most gerrymandered map in the entire country. One example is Fairfax County, very big, very blue county in Northern Virginia. There will be 5 congressional districts running through that county. You could have 5 Democrats representing 5 different seats, all living in their districts and in Fairfax County. It's crazy.
There you go. Panel, thanks.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.